Hey, my name's Loz, and I'm a certified Matwork Pilates instructor. Today, we'll be running through a few short exercises to help improve your overall health and vitality using Pilates. There are 3 things that we need to know before we start Pilates though. The first thing is we inhale through our nose and exhale forcefully out of our mouth like we're blowing bubbles through a straw. So when we inhale, then we exhale, making sure we're always exhaling nice and strong. And we always exhale on the part of the exercise that is the most challenging, and it's going to help us get through the exercise a little bit more easily. The second thing we need to speak about is an area on our body that I'll be referring to as your T-zone. So it's like we're drawing a big capital letter T in our abdominal region, with the top of the T joining from hip bone to hip bone and the bottom of the T going from your pubic bone up to meet that line. So the top T line is actually representing our transversus abdominis muscle, and that's the muscle that wraps around from our spine to our front like a big corset, and it keeps our spine nice and stable. This is really, really important for a Pilates class because we want to make sure that we're actually using all of the muscle wrapping around to keep our spine nice and supported. The second part of the T-zone is our pelvic floor, and that's like a zip on a pair of pants. The pelvic floor is the thing that sort of goes a little bit quick when we get older or we have children, and our pelvic floor is responsible for helping us stay continent. So in order to activate our T-zone, there are 2 things we need to do. The first part of T-zone activation is imagining that you're holding in that you need to go to the toilet. For a guy, that might be you need to make the sensation like you're stopping yourself passing wind, if that's more relatable to you. I like to think it's like we're doing up a pair of pants, so doing up the zip, and it's a slight pull. You'll know when your T-zone's activated in the first part, because if you take your 2 fingers and find your hip bones and take them just inside your hip bones, if you make that sensation like you're stopping yourself going to the toilet or holding in, passing wind, or doing up a pair of pants with the zip, you should feel the muscles underneath your fingers start to tighten against your fingers. So that's the first part of T-zone activation. The second part is the top of the T, so through the transversus abdominis muscle. So we stop ourselves going to the toilet, and then we imagine that we're pulling our hip bones across to meet each other. And if your hands are here in your T-zone, you should feel that muscle tighten a little bit more. So if you imagine doing up a pair of jeans and then doing up the button, your favorite pair of tight skinny jeans that are like 2 sizes too small, you'll know what I'm talking about. You'll be able to do that quite well. So we inhale through the nose, exhale out the mouth forcefully like we're blowing bubbles through a straw. We have our T-zone activation. So when I say T-zone, we're not talking about on our face, we're talking about this area of our body. And the third thing is our spinal position. And I'm going to be lying on the floor just to show you what spinal position is all about. So the first spinal position that we'll have is called a neutral spine. And if you were to lie on your back in a comfortable position with your back just in a natural curve and your tailbone on the floor, this will be your neutral spine. Everybody's neutral spine is different, but if you want to get technical, if our hands were our palm heel here on our hip bones and our fingers towards our pubic bone, our hands would be pretty flat. That's how you sort of know if you've got a really good neutral spine. So we'll be using a neutral spine for most of the exercises. The second spinal position is called an imprinted spine. And all we do is we use our abdominals to pull our spine towards the mat like we're flattening into the mat, but we want to ensure that our tailbone stays nicely on the mat. And we tend to use our imprinted spine when our legs are in the air in an unsupported position. And we use our imprinted spine because it protects our spine. So they're the 3 Pilates basics, guys. We've got breath work, T-zone, and spinal position. Let's get going. So today's workout is an ab blast session. These specific exercises are targeted to work your deep core muscles really, really well. So our first exercise, we're going to start lying on our back, remembering all the Pilates basics. Knees are going to be bent, feet will be flat on the floor, hip width apart. We're going to take our hands by our side with our palms facing towards the floor and gently draw our shoulders down and back whilst tucking our chin. Spine is in a neutral position. Lovely. And all we're going to do is take an inhaling breath, tighten through your T-zone. Remember, if you don't remember if your T-zone's tight, you pop your fingers here on your hip bones, just inside, and you should be able to see if your T-zone's on. And as we take an exhaling breath, we're going to do what is called a single leg slide. So we're going to exhale and slide one leg away from our body, and then inhale, slide it back. And then when we take the next exhale, we're going to slide the other leg. So it's really important to focus on exhaling out the mouth and inhaling back through the nose. So as we keep going, we just want to focus on keeping our spine in a neutral position. T-zone stays on. Breath work follows. If you're confident with your T-zone, you can take your hands back down by your side if you haven't moved them. They're just going to stay there. And we want to be dragging that foot back. So this exercise works our deep core muscles and starts to work through our lower body. Really important to make sure that we keep our T-zone on and that we keep our spine in a neutral position, and then we just keep breathing. Good. So you're going to do one more rep each side. Lovely. Good. Starting to feel the T-zone work nice and deeply now. That's what Pilates is about. And it doesn't have to be fast, guys. We don't actually count reps in Pilates, funnily enough. And when you're done, having a rest. So that was single leg slides. The next exercise we're going to move into is called bent knee fallouts. So starting on our back in the same position with our arms by our side, our palms to the floor, shoulders gently drawing down and back and chin tucked. We're going to take an inhale, tighten T-zone with a neutral spine. As we keep inhaling, we're going to let one knee fall out to the side just a little bit. And then we're going to exhale it back. Inhale out to the side on the other leg and exhale it back. So as you keep going, your focus is to actually keep your hips really, really stable, guys. So we want our hips facing towards the ceiling. Try not to let our hip fall out to the side too much, because if we take our leg too far, our hip is going to drop. So as you keep inhaling and letting each leg go out to the side, really focus on limiting the range of movement in that leg that's moving. And try and keep the leg that's not moving. It shouldn't be moving. So this is a hip exercise as well as working through the abdominals. This is working on hip stability as well. So as we get older, hip stability can be decreased because our hips are one of the weakest parts of our bodies. Good. And just do one more each side. Keep that breath going, inhaling as we take it out to the side. Exhale back. Remember, forceful exhales out the mouth like we're blowing bubbles through a straw. And resting there. Well done. So the next exercise we'll be moving into is called lift foot. It is as it sounds, right? So setting up just like we were before, neutral spine, T-zone on, hands by our side, chins tucked. We're going to be taking an inhale, tightening T-zone, and as you continue to inhale, imagine drawing the thigh bone of one leg into the hip socket as we lift it up into the air. Good. And then we exhale down to the floor, just that same leg. And we simply go to the other side. We inhale the other leg, drawing thigh bone into hip socket, T-zone on, and exhale down. So as you continue, what I'd like you to concentrate on for this exercise is just really focusing on not shifting your body weight through the hip. So hip stability once again, really thinking about drawing that thigh bone into the hip socket. So what we're starting to do is actually work a little bit further down the leg into the hip flexor section of our body. Good. So nice focus here. Not speeding up, making sure that our T-zone is still on and our chin is still tucked and that we're breathing. Breathing is important, right? Good. We're just going to do one more each side. And from here, we're going to move into an exercise called lift and extend. So this exercise works a little bit further down our leg, very similar to what we're doing, and we're just going to continue. So we take an inhale, doing the same thing we just did before, lifting up. But now on the exhale, we're going to extend the leg out, really squeezing through the leg as we point the toe, straighten the knee, and drop the thigh in line with the other leg. Good. And then we're going to inhale back to tabletop. This is called tabletop position, before we exhale to the floor and change sides. So not rocking through the hips, inhaling other side. Thigh bone into hip socket. Exhale, extend the leg, point the toe, straighten the knee. Good. Drop in line with the other leg. Inhale back to tabletop before we exhale to the floor. So you're just going to keep going with this, and you're going to start to notice that you are getting a little bit tired now, guys. That's very normal. Making sure our T-zone is still on and our spine is still neutral. So we're still working through the abs, and it might feel like you're actually working mainly through the legs, but believe me, if this is the first time you've ever done Pilates, you're gonna feel really sore tomorrow. So Pilates is all about control. In fact, Pilates was originally going to be called Controlology by Joseph Pilates. That's what he wanted to call it. But then after he died, somebody named it after him. So it's all about control. So just one more here, guys. You're doing really, really well. T-zone's on. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. And when you're done, having a rest. Well done. So we're going to move into some more challenging abdominal exercises now. So this is abdominal crunch number 1. Taking our hands behind our head, we're going to open up our elbows, and ideally you don't want to be seeing your elbows in your peripheral vision. We've still got a neutral spine, our T-zone's still on, and our legs are still hip width apart with our feet flat on the floor. From here, you're going to draw your shoulders down and back and let your head rest into your hands so you can still tuck your chin. And we're going to take an inhaling breath, tighten T-zone. On the exhale, imagine that you're drawing your rib cage down to your hip socket, and you want to make that gap as small as possible. So you're going to exhale, draw rib down to hip, and then your head and shoulders are going to lift off the floor. So it's a very small crunch, and notice that your elbows still stay nice and wide, and then you inhale down. So it's called abdominal crunch for a reason, because we're crunching our abdominals, right? So T-zone's still on, spine is still neutral, really trying to relax and not squeeze the bum. We tend to try really hard all the time. It's not necessary to try really hard. Just relax and focus on just pulling the rib to the hip. So it's a very small movement, and this is a very powerful little exercise to start working your abdominals. So we exhale up. Notice how my elbows aren't moving. Good. So I just want you to do 3 more. Nice. Concentrate. If you need to close your eyes, that can be useful as well. And we've got 1 more. Good, and relaxing down. How did that feel? I bet you're a little bit sore. So, challenging ourselves now. We're going to take our hands back down by our side. We're going to start using an imprinted spine for the next couple of exercises. So remember to imprint our spine. We use our abdominals to pull our spine towards the mat, but our tailbone needs to stay on the floor. So we're going to inhale, imprint spine, and take one leg to tabletop. And then on the exhale, we're going to take the other leg to tabletop, noticing the tension that we've now created on our abdominals. We're going to move into abdominal crunch number 2. So it's the same movement, but we've now got an imprinted spine and our legs are in tabletop. Please squeeze your knees and ankles together to do this exercise so we can start activating a little bit further down the body. So it's exactly the same movement we just did before. We're going to inhale T-zone, remember spine is imprinted, and as we exhale, drawing rib cage down to hip socket. Yes, lifting up. Nice. So this is significantly more challenging than the previous exercise, guys. Really needing to focus now, making sure that we're still keeping that T-zone on. So we exhale up, out the mouth, inhale down to the floor, making sure that we're not trying to squeeze all the way up in through our sternum. Not necessary. It's a very little movement, guys. So elbows are wide, chin is tucked, head is relaxed, and shoulders keep drawing down and back. Good. So breathing through it, try and squeeze knees and ankles together so you can activate through the inner thigh. Nice. You can do it. You've got this. Keep breathing. Just do 1 more here. I know this is challenging. Good work. And when you're done, head and shoulders to the floor. Take your hands to your knees and just relax. Doesn't that feel great? So the next exercise we'll be moving into is called CRISS-CROSS. So we're going to start to work a little bit higher up in our abdominals through our obliques. So these muscles are running around the side. Our legs are going to stay in tabletop and our hands are going to go back to where they were. So this is a challenging exercise, but I know you can do it. So spine is in an imprinted position. Our legs now just going to pry apart so they're hip width apart. We're going to take an inhale, tighten T-zone. As we exhale, we're going to lift head and shoulders off the floor. Good. Take an inhale here, and on the exhale, just extend one leg, leaving one leg in tabletop, and then inhale it back and change side, just to get your legs moving. So this exercise on its own is called bicycle legs. but we're not going to stay here. So we're just extending one leg and keeping our head and shoulders off the floor. Good. Now on the next exhale, I want you to draw the opposite shoulder towards the knee that's bent. And inhale back. And change sides. This is crisscross. Good. So, really concentrating on keeping the elbows nice and wide, keeping the knees above our hips, and keeping our spine imprinted as we keep breathing, exhaling out the mouth. Good, inhaling back. So it's like we're drawing our opposite rib to our opposite hip, so you'll feel this working a lot. So we've worked up to this, I've primed you for this, guys. We didn't go in cold. You can do this. Good, keeping heads and shoulders off the floor, nice. Keep going. You can do this. You're only gonna do one more each side. Well done. I know you're getting tired. And when you're done, hands to knees, head and shoulders to the floor and hug your knees. Well done. We've got one more exercise here. You wanted an ab blast? Well, you've got one. This exercise is called Nutcracker. It's a cracker. So we're gonna start with our legs in tabletop position, gluing our knees and ankles together, knees sitting above hips, spine is still imprinted, so still using our abs to draw our spine towards the floor. Hands are now gonna stack one on top of the other, straight above our face. Good. Drawing shoulders down and back and tucking our chin. We're gonna take an inhale, tighten T-zone, and as we exhale, drawing rib to hip, lifting head and shoulders off the floor, but then we're gonna open our knees and really reach our fingers through. And then we inhale back, and our hands just simply come back over our face. So it's a nice, sharp, quick movement. So it looks like this. Exhale up. Inhale, release. Good. And we keep going. Really reaching through the fingers, making sure that the knees and hips stay in the same spot as you open your knees up. Good. This is quite a challenge. And if you want to make this a little bit harder, because I know some of you do, you can move into Nutcracker number 2, and all we do is we open our legs up and keep going. Good. Told you it was hard. Keep going. Exhale up. Inhale back. We may be in Nutcracker number 1, and that's okay too. Reaching through. Just do 2 more. Last time. And when you're done, hands to knees, hug them in towards your body. Good. So we're just gonna get up now. We're gonna take our legs to the floor, nice and smoothly. Rolling over onto one side, and very gently letting yourself up with your upper body. So, how do you feel? Are you sore? Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you taking the time out to learn how to get a little bit more fit and working on your body in a way that you may not have worked before. I'll see you in the next video.